And you decided, or your parents decided, or you decided collectively to go to West End. How was that decision made?
Well, Dr. King asked all the children, all the students, to integrate the schools. And there were 22 signed up for West End. There were other numbers signed up to the other schools, but specifically I remember 22 signed up for West End.
This is in 63, 64 school year?
63, 64, 65 school year.
Okay. And there were 22 that signed up?
22.
How many?
The night before, the Sunday night before.
Okay. How many showed up on Monday morning?
1.
And that was you. How did you get there?
My father drove us, my mother, my father, and myself. When we arrived, I can remember the Klan marching down the sidewalk in their hoods and their robes, and I believe this was the first time that I had seen the Klan.
How many? Do you remember the numbers? Were there others that were there that were not members of, did not have?
There were mobs there. Okay. There were mob scenes, but I will always remember the robes and not being afraid. And the closer we got to the school, I felt privileged. I felt honored. I was not afraid. Maybe I should have been afraid, but I was not afraid because I had my father there. And I can remember to get to the school door, we had to say, "Excuse me, excuse me." And they didn't want to let us through, and they would say, "Nigger, go home. Nigger, nigger, go home, nigger." And the more they said that, the prouder I got, and the more I held my shoulders back, and I smiled. But there were a lot of angry whites there. My father and my mother had talked to me, and they said that the West End area was a poor area, and that's where poor white trash lived, and that we were better than that. We were better. Those people were acting that way because they didn't know any better. My mother and father prepared me for what would happen, but they had no idea as to what really happened.
What would happen when you finally get into the school and you go to the office? Do you remember the reception that you received from the principal and from those that worked in the office?
I remember the principal being very old and very nervous. He was probably thinking that no blacks would come, that we wouldn't dare come. And then I showed up, and inside the school it was chaos. The children were very mean. They yelled, "Nigger," but I had heard that so much, it didn't matter.
Inside the classroom, this was going on, and what did the teachers do when these kinds of incidents would take place?
If you don't have leadership at the top, if the principal does not say, "We will not tolerate outbursts," if the principal does not say, "We're just going to accept the situation," what happened was just awful. I can remember in the classrooms that all the children, all the students, if there were 20, 25 kids in one class, they would all sit in the front row, 2 and 3 to 1 seat, and then they would leave 4 rows, and then I would sit on the last row. And there would be 4 empty rows between us. And I could not go to the restroom when the other students went to the restroom. I had a special time to go to the restroom.
A specially designated time?
A special designated time, whether I had to or not. And one particular day when I was in the 10th grade, I had to go. And I had to go at the time when the other kids were in there also. And I remember that this was the first time that I had had new books. I had brand new books for the first time. And one of the students knocked my books over in a sink full of water. Well, heaven and hell couldn't help her right then. I didn't care. I beat her from A to Z, and I didn't care.
Were just the two of you in the bathroom at the time?
No, there were many girls in there, but I would have taken care of all of them. It was the first time in my life that I had brand new books. My father had probably taken his whole 2-week salary to pay for my books. I was so proud. They were wrapped in newspaper. I had trimmed the newspaper and bound the books. I was so careful not to get any scratches on them, no dirt. They were protected because they were new books.
What happened as a result of the fight?
Well, I'm sure the white girl wished that she hadn't started that. She said, I told her to pick them up, and she knocked them on the floor again. I said, pick them up. And she said something about she didn't listen to a nigger, something about a nigger. After that, I don't remember, except that when I finished with her, you couldn't really tell what she was made of. But we were both sent to the principal's office, and the principal expelled me. And I called my dad. My dad came to get me. And when I got home, we called 16th Street Baptist Church, and my dad called Washington, and he talked to Kessenbach, and they sent somebody there. There were 3 white men that came that night.
To your home?
To my home. And they wanted to know what happened, and I told them. They wanted to be very sure that I hadn't initiated the fight.
This was the night of the fight?
This was the night of the fight.
Oh, okay. And will you return? Did you go back the next day?
I cannot remember if I went back the next day, but this was a very critical point because whites didn't know how they were going to handle the situation in the schools. There were no rules. They really didn't know how to handle it.
Were you the only black child at the school?
I was the only black child there, and it seems like 2,000 of them, but it was probably no more than 300 or 400 students
West
there.
End was a pretty large school.
Was it?
So
it seemed like
about 2,000.
Then probably so.
It was West End and Woodlawn were huge schools, so they probably were very large classes, I would assume, as well. Then, upon the return, do you remember when you returned to school what your reception was?
The principal was very angry because he was very angry. The Attorney General had sent people, I don't know who the white men were, to the school to talk to him. He didn't want that. They would have been very easy to suspend me, get rid of me, and never see me again. But my father said no. He asked me, can you handle it? My father would always ask me, can you handle it? But he knew that I could. I knew that he expected me to, and I knew that somebody had to do it.
What was the reaction of your other brothers and sisters to your attending and having to go through what you were going through? Were they aware of what was happening at the time?
Of course they were aware.
What were their reactions?
They were my brothers and sisters. They were supportive. Whatever had to be done is exactly what we did. My brothers were younger, and perhaps they did not understand as much, but my sister did. My sister was fearful for me. My sister was very protective of me. They were always fearful that something might happen to me. If the other kids were let out of school at 3, then my dad had to pick me up at 2:30. I was never allowed to go out of the door when they were going out of the door.
For the entire 3 years that you were
For
there?
the entire 3 years that we were there. They said they couldn't protect me.
Okay. So you graduated. When you graduated, how many black students were at West End at that time?
There were a total of 3. There was one girl to graduate in 1967. There were 2 of us graduating. And I can't remember if Vera Marcus was in the 10th grade, I believe, at that time.
Mm-hmm. When you graduated?
When I graduated.
And Patricia Marcus?
Patricia Marcus, her sister, had gone to West End in 1963 and graduated.
Okay. Were there no boys, no black males involved in the school at all?
No.
Very, very interesting. That must have been a very trying time in your life. How did that experience impact upon the rest of your life?
I grew up fast. I matured probably faster than the kids around me. It made me very strong. It made me very bitter, but it made me very proud, and I knew that I had been set aside. I knew that for whatever reason, whatever would come in my life, that I'd be able to handle it. That if I had gone through that I could handle anything.
After high school, what did you do?
After high school, I went to Tuskegee Institute. I graduated on Sunday afternoon, and the next Sunday afternoon I was leaving for college. That had nothing to do with West End. At Princeton Elementary School, in 5th grade, we knew where we were going to go to college. Our teachers had told us where we were going to go to college. We knew all about Tuskegee, while other students were procrastinating and wondering and trying to see if they were accepted. I knew in 5th grade where I was going to go to school. By the time we were in 7th grade, I think our teachers had probably already filled out our applications for college in our minds. Mrs. Catherine Eileen Smith, had gone to Tuskegee, and she would say, "Class, these are the songs that you will sing at Tuskegee, and these are the things that you will do at Tuskegee. And of course, this is what you'll have to wear at Tuskegee." And everybody went to Tuskegee.
So you were programmed for Tuskegee?
We were programmed. I never applied anywhere else.
What was the transition like from your high school days to Tuskegee?
It was glory, hallelujah. It was wonderful to be around black people, to be around people going to college, period. It was a new day. It was a proud day. It was just wonderful.
And did you graduate from Tuskegee?
No, I didn't.
Okay. How long did you spend?
I spent 2 years at Tuskegee.
And it's very obvious that there are very fond memories of that. From Tuskegee, where did you go?
From Tuskegee, I got married and I moved to Georgia, I believe, to Atlanta. And then I lived 3 years in Germany. And from Germany, I came back to Chicago, and I finished Northeastern Illinois University.
And now you have a master's degree, right? In what area and where did you?
In public administration and business.
And you did that in Illinois?
No, at University of Texas.
San Antonio.
San Antonio, yeah.
Well, that's a tremendous story because what we're seemingly is happening with people who grew up in Birmingham and was involved in the movement, it appears that, just as you said, there's maturity there based upon those times that led you to be successful in other areas. I assume that's because of the fortitude that you developed.
Well, I don't know about successful, but you sure learn how to survive. You sure don't know that N-O is in the vocabulary. You sure don't know that can't isn't in the dictionary. You don't know that you can't do things. You're certainly not intimidated by people because you face Satan himself every day. You don't know anything but to just do it. Just do it.
It's been a very rewarding hour that we've spent together. Is there anything else that we have not covered that you would like to share with us in relationship to those days?
I would like for the young people to not take those days for granted. I would like for those young people to realize that the world that they enjoy came at somebody's sacrifice. My life was better because people died before I had to go through those doors. I'm saddened when I see West End High School now. I'm saddened by the way the children act today, that they don't take their education seriously. I'm saddened. I'm very saddened at the children's mentality that they don't know that they can achieve. I'm saddened when they don't want to go to college. I'm saddened when they go to college and it's not important to them. They must know that everything came at somebody's sacrifice. That's what I want them to know. Somebody bled, somebody cried, and somebody died for you.